Hello and welcome back to Philosophical Conversations. I am Gilles Khuroshvili. We are in the country of Georgia at New Georgia University. And today we discuss Артур Schopenhauer's philosophy. I am very pleased to be joined in this conversation by Gilles Marmasse. Mr. Marmasse is a professor at the University of Pουατιές. Mr. Marmasse, thanks for joining. And let us start our interview by speaking about Schopenhauer's philosophy, actually the idea of Schopenhauer's philosophy. Артур Schopenhauer's philosophy was largely based on transcendental idealism of Immanuel Kant. However, his atheistic metaphysical and ethical system was rejecting the post-Kantian philosophies of German idealism. Do you think that Schopenhauer is the best interpreter of Kantian idealism, and what is the input of Kant, of his input in Kantian studies?
Yes, so as you say, the starting point of Schopenhauer's philosophy is indeed Kant's transcendental idealism, as it appears first of all in the Critique of Pure Reason. So that means that for Schopenhauer, as well for Kant, the world is first of all a representation which is conditioned by the forms of our cognition. So very important to see that for Schopenhauer there is a gap between the things as they appear and the things as they are in themselves. Something very interesting, Schopenhauer is not at all interested in the critique German idealism expresses against Kant. This critique concerns first of all the dualism, and German idealism refuses Kantian dualism. On the contrary, Schopenhauer proposes a radicalization, if possible, of Kant's dualism. So, is Schopenhauer a good reader of Kant? It is your question. Yes and no, I would answer. No, on a certain part, I would mention two problems. First point, Schopenhauer simplifies, in a certain sense, Kant's analysis of the mind. So, according to Schopenhauer, the activity of the mind occurs essentially following the principle of reason. No effect without cause, no event in the world without a reason, a ground. And in Kant, as it is well known, so you have the forms of the transcendental sensibility, the categories and the principle of the transcendental understanding, the activity of reason. So a large part of that disappears in Schopenhauer. This is the first problem. But there is something more important in my view. So according to Schopenhauer, Kant's philosophy leads to skepticism. And it is not true, in fact. Kant does not view himself as a skeptical philosopher. On the contrary, he tries to explain the success of the empirical sciences. So, on these points, you have an important difference between Schopenhauer and Kant. But, so the reading of Schopenhauer is very interesting, very productive, and first of all, because Schopenhauer endorses the concept of the thing in itself and gives it a content. That is of course the will. According to Kant, the thing itself is not knowable, and according to Schopenhauer, indeed, because the will is fundamentally irrational. It is this endless impulse which is at the foundation of our instinctual drive. So, in one word, I would say, Schopenhauer is perhaps not a rigorous reader, but he is a creative reader.
Schopenhauer criticized logical optimism of Kant and Hegel and the belief that individual morality could be determined by society and the reason. He himself believed that humans were motivated by only their own basic desires. How do you think, what drove him to such a conclusion?
Yes, indeed, one of Kant's most profound convictions is that the man can be autonomous. And autonomy in Kant means that the man can follow his moral conscience, which is called by Kant the practical reason. So that means that the man is able to be independent of his particular inclinations. So in this sense, Kant is indeed optimistic. According to him, it is not easy to be autonomous, but it is principally possible. And Schopenhauer does not share at all this point of view because, according to him, the man is driven by the will, which is a blind and conscious force, which is present in all of the nature. So, in its highest objectifications in the man, the will become conscious, but this conscience is not a capacity of choice. And that's why the agent performs the action with necessity. So I think that there are many roots of this point of view. Probably the critique of the free will in Spinoza, which had a huge influence in the German and the European philosophical area. Something perhaps in Kant himself. Kant explains that you must follow the practical reason, but you can never be sure that you follow it because you cannot know objectively your motivation.
Right.
And perhaps, last but not least, Schopenhauer experienced the power of desire and affects. So perhaps his vision of human action too radical, but I would say it is very interesting.
For Schopenhauer, human desiring and willing cause suffering and pain. A temporary way to escape this pain is through aesthetics. Could you briefly describe Schopenhauer's aesthetics?
Yes, so I would say that according to Schopenhauer, the effort toward knowing in the man implies the fragmentation of the body, and its breakup into individuals and between one another conflicts. What means the war of all against all to use Hobbes' formulation in the Leviathan to characterize the state of nature. So, human condition is characterized by conflict, violence, suffering, in one word. Aesthetic contemplation, on the contrary, gives the opportunity to view life without the distorting influence of the will. So, the will, according to Schopenhauer, makes us unhappy since it can never be satisfied. And the aesthetic contemplation is a means, as you say, to escape our unhappy condition. But there is something important I would underscore, that is that aesthetic contemplation, that is the experience of beauty, for example, in front of a work of art, does not transport the viewer to an imaginary realm. On the contrary, in Schopenhauer's view, transcending the everyday representation means to see the world as it is, and the world as it is the ideas. The ideas, according to Schopenhauer, they are the general essences of the things. And this is a link between Schopenhauer and German idealism. For all these authors, experience of art, beauty, gives an access to truth.
Well, Schopenhauer is well known for his contribution to ethics. His moral theory suggests that only compassion can drive moral acts. However, he thought that ethical life needs additional motivations, such as punishments. Why Schopenhauer was so pessimistic regarding human character, and where can one search for the base of such pessimism?
Yes, so pessimism is one of the best known features of Schopenhauer's philosophy. Schopenhauer is often called philosopher of pessimism. And this vision, I would say, follows from his account of the inner nature of the world, that is, this aimless, blind striving, a striving which is without goal or purpose, and which therefore cannot be satisfied. As I said, the will objectifies itself in many forms, in a hierarchical system of forms, but between each other there is struggle, what means, of course, unhappiness. And this view of the world is extremely original. So if we remind, for example, the Greeks, according to the ancient Greeks, the world as cosmos is fundamentally beautiful, good, and that's why the main principle of the moral is to follow the nature. In Christianity, for example, so God loves the world, and that's why he sends his own Son to the world. And in the Enlightenment philosophy of the 18th century, so the history is essentially rational and leads to a better situation. The break of Schopenhauer's philosophy is extremely radical. So one could remind Gnosticism, this current, this, I would say, religious, philosophical current at the time of the beginning of Christianity. According to Gnosticism, human people are divine souls who are prisoners in the material world, and this material world was created by a bad God. So there is a certain resemblance between this view of the world and Schopenhauer's world, but I would say that it is one of the aspects, one of the interests of his philosophy, how radically it is original.
Schopenhauer was one of those major European philosophers who were interested in Eastern thought. Indeed, his philosophy has a lot of intercultural and multicultural elements. What caused his interest in Eastern thought? Was it because Western intellectual traditions, which were not able to answer some of his questions, or something else?
Yes, indeed, Schopenhauer's philosophy appears at the time of what is called the Oriental Renaissance in Europe. So this time where scholars in Europe discovered the Sanskrit language and Indian literature. Indeed, you find in Schopenhauer's work many mentions of Indian literature and of Buddhist themes. For example, the veil of Maya, and the difference between the subjective and the objective aspect of the world match up to the couple Atman and Brahman in the Upanishads, and simply the theme of the extinction of the desire as a condition for happiness. Once again, this represents an important breaks with the Western tradition, the idea that the man may control his life, that the world is good in itself, and that there is progress in history. And I would say that Schopenhauer initiated a new tradition in Western philosophy. I would mention the idea that the body must be a basis for the interpretation of the existence of the world, and the importance of the unconscious in the every life. That is the main interests of Schopenhauer's philosophy.
Professor Marmasse, thanks for your time and thanks for the interview.